The fuel retail game has completely split in two in 2026. On one side, legacy gas stations are fighting plunging inside sales by artificially padding their fuel margins by 30 to 40 cents per gallon. On the other side, disruptors and warehouse clubs are slashing prices to the bone, treating gasoline as a loss leader just to drive foot traffic and memberships. This is the new empire contrast. Hyper-efficient logistical juggernauts are moving oceans of fuel to build loyalty, while bloated, aging monoliths are relying on deceptive apps and desperate markups just to survive. Here is the thing, and the dealerships and automakers will absolutely not tell you this. Over 70% of gas sold in America does not have enough detergents to protect your engine, leading to costly long-term breakdowns and clogged injectors. Paying sticker price at a decaying forecourt is not just a rip-off. It is actively funding corporate negligence and crumbling infrastructure. Smart buyers are stacking loyalty hacks and migrating to the disruptors, refusing to subsidize the legacy brand's failures. Stick around until the end, because the final brand on this list is artificially jacking up premium fuel prices by a whopping 90 cents per gallon. 7-Eleven/Speedway. Once revered as the pioneer of the 24/7 convenience model, this merged entity is now an unmanageable monolith, struggling with massive integration failures. With roughly 13,500 US stores, they leverage localized dominance to charge 1 to 3 cents higher per gallon than regional independents. And get this, North American operating revenues have already plummeted from $16 billion down to $13.1 billion. Here is the thing. The parent company is desperately trying to offset the debt from its $21 billion acquisition of Speedway, forcing them to squeeze the fuel pumps to compensate for declining foot traffic. Infrastructure neglect is rampant as a direct result. In Florida, state agricultural departments were forced to launch formal investigations after consumers reported severe engine issues immediately after purchasing contaminated fuel from these locations. The real kicker is that you are not just overpaying, you are potentially filling your direct injection engine with product that has failed basic quality thresholds. Bottom line, 7-Eleven is the corporate equivalent of a clogged fuel filter, choking on its own scale while ignoring basic maintenance. But if you think 7-Eleven is neglecting its pumps, wait until you see what BP has done to its entire downstream network. BP/AMPM. From the visionary Beyond Petroleum era to the absolute bottom of the barrel in customer satisfaction and deferred maintenance, BP's fall from grace is brutal. In the 2025 ACSI convenience store study, BP's overall score dropped 4% to 74, while its AMPM subsidiary finished dead last in the entire industry with a score of 73. Translation: real human beings, surveyed on real experiences, rank this brand below every single competitor in the country. Here is where it gets truly desperate. BP's corporate executives are chasing $7.5 billion in upstream crude extraction profits, leaving their downstream franchised retail networks completely starved of capital expenditure and facility upgrades. Drivers are forced to navigate broken card readers, deteriorating canopies, and unusable restrooms, relying heavily on a 5-cent per gallon BPME app discount just to stomach the baseline prices. That 5-cent discount is not generosity. It is a calculated palliative, the corporate equivalent of handing a dying patient a bandage while the entire building burns. Bottom line, BP is on palliative care for gas stations, and it has regressed to a state of barely pumpable. But if you think BP is depressing, wait until you see the digital bait-and-switch operation that Circle K is running coast to coast. Circle K is a glitching global giant that relies on deceptive signage and digital manipulation to trap commuters at the pump. Facing a terminated $47 billion mega merger with 7&i Holdings, the brand is aggressively squeezing its current captive demographic, resulting in abysmal 1.6-star consumer ratings at its most problematic locations. And get this, their Inner Circle and Easy Pay apps are actively under investigation for frequent technical glitches that freeze at the authorizing screen, failing to apply the promised member discounts entirely. Here is where it gets truly infuriating for your wallet. The desperation manifests at the street level, where stations use massive roadside pylons to advertise cheap, unleaded 88, only to shock drivers at the pump with regular 87-octane prices that are nearly 30 cents higher. The real kicker is that by the time you have driven past the competitor and pulled under the canopy, you are already committed. That is not an accident. That is architecture. Bottom line, Circle K is a glitching slot machine masquerading as a forecourt, and the house always wins. Hey Motormine crew, if you are tired of pump glitches and deceptive apps stealing your hard-earned cash, hit that like button and subscribe right now for more cynical, data-driven automotive truth delivered every single week. But if you think Circle K's pricing is tricky, Wait until you see how Casey's General Stores has turned rural geography into a mandatory shakedown. Casey's General Stores, Wall Street's favorite convenience darling, has quietly transformed into a rural extortionist, and most drivers in flyover country have absolutely no idea it is happening to them. While same-store fuel volumes were virtually flat, a microscopic 0.1 to 0.4% increase, the brand extracted an extortionate fuel margin of over 40 cents per gallon from those same captive customers. Translation: volume stayed flat, but they reached deeper into your pocket anyway. Here is the thing. Casey's is using its geographic monopoly in rural America to subsidize a massive restaurant-first expansion, funding a $1.145 billion acquisition spree to build its high-margin food empire. Captive rural drivers are feeling the full sting of this strategy, driving the largest satisfaction decline in the entire convenience industry, down 5% to a 75 ACSI score. You are not just buying gasoline at Casey's, you are paying a mandatory cover charge to fund their 58.3% margin on pizza and hot sandwiches. Bottom line, Casey's is a publicly traded pizza parlor that happens to have a fuel pump out front, and you are the one subsidizing the expansion. But if you think Casey's is aggressively padding margins, wait until you see the ultimate margin maximizer. Exxon Mobile. Exxon Mobile is the ultimate margin maximizer, a titan that hoards record corporate cash while systematically passing every infrastructure liability down to the local franchisee below it. The parent company generated a staggering $28.8 billion in earnings and executed $37.2 billion in shareholder distributions in 2025 alone. And get this, while the corporate balance sheet looks bulletproof, the physical stations serving you fuel are aging, franchise-operated, and increasingly facing EPA fines for underground storage tank violations that the parent company has structurally insulated itself from. Here is where it gets truly cynical. Drivers are lured in by the heavily marketed Synergy additive package and the gamified Exxon Mobile Rewards Plus app, which creates the psychological illusion of savings while maintaining wildly inflated baseline prices. The real kicker is that the behavioral design of that app is not built to save you money. It is built to maintain your engagement and justify your continued patronage at prices your local independent could beat by 12 to 15 cents on a Tuesday afternoon. Bottom line, Exxon Mobil is an invincible titan exacting a mandatory gamified toll from your wallet, and it has engineered the whole system so you feel good about paying it. Motormind community question: are you seeing these massive price gaps between legacy stations and warehouse clubs in your local area? Drop what you're paying for regular and premium in the comments below. Let us build a real crowdsourced price map together. But if you think Exxon Mobil relies heavily on behavioral psychology, wait until you see the Skinner box Shell has constructed around Western drivers. Shell is a retreating global entity that is relying on psychological architecture, not competitive pricing, to keep Western drivers tethered to the pump. Regular unleaded at Shell averages around $4.18, sitting significantly higher than discount competitors. And get this, the parent company is facing such severe macroeconomic headwinds that they completely divested their entire 680-site network in Pakistan, selling it off to Wafi Energy to plug holes in a globally collapsing margin structure. Here is the thing. To protect those collapsing global margins, they deploy highly restrictive loyalty architecture on the American consumer. Their US and UK Go Plus programs utilize a visit-based metric rather than a linear points accumulation system. Translation: you do not earn rewards proportional to what you spend. You are forced to make 10 distinct visits, paying their inflated premium prices every single time before you unlock any tangible financial reward. The baseline price has already negated that discount before you even earn it. Bottom line, Shell is a psychological Skinner box with a fuel nozzle attached, and every visit is a conditioning session. But if you think Shell's prices are steep, let us take a hard turn and look at the true North Star of this industry, the brand doing everything right. Costco. The contrast: Costco is the loss leader Leviathan that completely inverted the economic model of the American gas station, and it is not even close. In high-cost markets like California, Costco averages an unbelievable 53 cents below the market rate. Their U.S. fuel station penetration now sits at 67% of all warehouse locations, and that number is climbing. Translation: more than 2/3 of Costco warehouses in America are actively subsidizing your tank right now. Here is the thing. They actively lose money on fuel margins, and that is the entire point. The real profit engine is 79.6 million paid memberships generating predictable, recurring revenue that the fuel pump simply services. And get this, by phasing out cash payments in 2023 and engineering proprietary extra-long hoses that allow vehicles to pull forward without repositioning, they slashed peak wait times down to just 6 to 8 minutes, creating a hyper-efficient refueling hub. Bottom line, Costco is the industry's gold standard of volume and efficiency, a machine built to reward loyalty rather than exploit desperation. But if you think Costco moves oceans of fuel efficiently, wait until you see the cult phenomenon that is Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's, the contrast. Buc-ee's surveyed the gritty, neglected, diesel-soaked history of the American travel stop and rebuilt it from the ground up as a flawless destination. Flagship locations feature over 100 pumps, attract an average of 10,000 daily customers, and routinely top the dunnhumby Convenience Retailer Preference Index, the gold standard measurement of how consumers actually feel about where they stop. And get this, by explicitly banning long-haul 18-wheelers from their lots entirely, they permanently eliminate the grime, diesel spills, and asphalt degradation that plague every traditional travel stop on the American highway network. Here is the thing. Because Buc-ee's generates astronomical profit margins from brisket, fudge, and branded merchandise, the fuel pumps become a secondary profit center, impeccably maintained and competitively priced. Thermal management of their underground tanks, double-walled storage infrastructure, and rigorous quality control mean the fuel you pump there is genuinely worth what you pay. Bottom line, Buc-ee's is a hyper-capitalist theme park masquerading as a travel center, and it has turned the decaying American gas station model into something consumers actually plan their road trips around. But if you think Buc-ee's has reached the peak of the market, wait until you see our final warning and the most brutal pricing tactic on this entire list. Sunoco is a legacy racing and performance brand that is actively drowning in franchise neglect and contaminated fuel reports, and the gap between its marketing and its reality is savage. Despite a massive revenue base exceeding $25 billion, their net margins have compressed to a razor-thin 1.9%. Signaling a brand-burning massive volume while struggling to maintain basic operational profitability at the station level. Translation: the revenue sounds impressive until you realize almost none of it is surviving the journey back to actual profit. Here is where it gets truly alarming for your vehicle. While Sunoco aggressively markets its high-octane racing heritage and performance credentials, localized quality control at independent franchise locations has severely degraded, destroying the brand's core promise at the injector level. Drivers are pulling catastrophic reports of water contamination in Sunoco tanks, sometimes extracting inches of solid water and black gunk out of their fuel systems, resulting in immediate check engine lights, failed direct injection pumps, and dead vehicles stranded mid-road trip. The real kicker is that the brand's thermal management protocols and double-walled tank compliance varies wildly by franchise operator. Bottom line, Sunoco is a legacy racing brand that has driven straight into the mud, and your high-compression engine is the one paying the mechanical bill. Which brings us to the most brutal pricing tactic on the entire map. Chevron is the apex predator of the highway off-ramp, a brand that has completely detached its premium pricing from the reality of crude oil markets, and it is doing so with surgical, calculated precision. Hit with a $900,000 fine for air pollution violations and entangled in a massive $275 million EPA emissions settlement, the brand has engineered a system to extract those regulatory costs straight from the consumer at the pump. Translation: you are not just buying gasoline at Chevron, you are paying the legal bills of a corporation that polluted the air you breathe. Here is where it gets truly criminal for your budget. Chevron weaponizes prime real estate positioning, those highly visible corner lots at highway off-ramps where your tank is already running on fumes, and layers on the heavy marketing of its Techron additive to exploit high-income commuters who are psychologically terrified of engine knocking. And get this, while regional competitors charge an average of $4.59 for premium fuel, Chevron stations ruthlessly charge up to $5.49 for the exact same grade. That is a 90-cent artificial spread that has nothing to do with crude oil futures, refining costs, or additive quality. It is a geographic desperation tax. Bottom line, Chevron has built one of the most highly efficient systems of legalized highway robbery in American retail history, and it only works because you are running on empty. The fuel retail sector has fractured into a brutal war between corporate extraction and genuine consumer value, and the casualties are your wallet and your engine. On one side, we have legacy oil giants and heavily franchised convenience chains that view the driver purely as a distress asset, a captive revenue unit to be squeezed hardest at the precise moment of maximum desperation. They are aggressively weaponizing market volatility, deferred maintenance, and deceptive digital applications to mask their own structural decline, their massive debt loads, and their crumbling inventory of aging underground tanks. On the other side, we have destination retailers and warehouse clubs that have made a calculated, data-driven decision. Fuel is no longer a localized profit center. It is a utility, a tool for building unshakable brand loyalty that pays dividends for decades. Here is the thing, and this is my final piece of wisdom to save you from a costly mistake. Stop running your tank to empty. When you are geographically desperate on a highway off-ramp with 2 miles of range left on your display, you become the perfect, ideal textbook victim for a 40-cent or 90-cent margin extraction. That is not bad luck. That is by design. Plan your fuel stops deliberately, the same way you plan a service interval on a vehicle with a CVT transmission, with intent, with data, and before the warning light forces your hand. Migrate toward the disruptors, the brands moving massive fuel volume through brand new double-walled tanks with top-tier detergent packages and residual quality control that protects your fuel injectors long-term. Utilize wholesale club memberships aggressively. Leverage third-party grocery card discount hacks. Stack your savings before you ever pull under a canopy. But never, not once, pay the sticker price at a decaying legacy pump run by a corporation that has already decided your engine is not its problem. Your wallet will thank you, and so will every fuel injector in that engine you worked. Hard to pay for. Hit subscribe if you want the unfiltered truth about 2026, because we are just getting started.